like to call to order Wyoming Valley West School District's work session for Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Damascus, Mr. Hardwick,
Here.
Mr. Keating,
Here.
Mr. McGinley,
Present.
Mr. Perfetto,
Here.
Mr. Kubuski,
Here.
Mrs. Cassatt. Here. Mr. Kamis.
Present. A moment of silence followed by the salute to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to announce that there was a work session held prior, or an executive session held prior to this work session to discuss personnel and contract. Mr. Tosh, do you have anything this evening?
Yeah, I have a couple announcements. Thank you, Mr. Kamis. As previously mentioned on our last robo call this Monday, April 8th, Act 80 early dismissal due to the eclipse. Also, the following day, next Tuesday, April the 9th, Dana Elementary School will have a math adventure in Candyland from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. Bring the whole family for snacks and fun with candy-themed math night. Some of the more interesting activities to help students prepare for the upcoming PSSA tests are marshmallow geometric figures, patterns with Fruit Loops, measuring with fruit by the foot, and finding the area and perimeter of a brownie and determine probability with fruit snacks. Our math and literacy nights at our elementary buildings this year have been extremely popular with parents and students. I want to compliment all the administrators, the teachers, everyone associated with the literacy night that the buildings have participated in. Along those lines, the following night, Wednesday, April the 10th, 1 week tonight, Chester Elementary School will host their Title I PSSA Math Carnival, grades 3, 4, and 5. Math and reading specialists, as well as Chester Street teachers, will share skills to help families support their child's success on the upcoming PSSA math test. And I don't normally announce athletic schedules because we have so many teams competing, but I'd like to just mention one team tonight, and that's our unified track team. They will have their one and only home meet 1 week tomorrow, Thursday, April the 11th at 1:45 on the high school track in Plymouth. The United Track Team is a fully inclusive co-ed high school sports program, which successfully brings students with and without disabilities together. They train together, they compete as equal teammates, and through this experience, they become friends. Again, it's one of the more motivating sports that we do have, and I would highly recommend it. The last thing I'd like to read very quickly to you is a letter that I received from a parent this morning. Hi, I just wanted to bring your attention to something that happened with a bus driver who drives the orange bus for Dana Street School. Our son was due for pickup today at 8:24, and today the bus driver was very early at 8:17 to be exact. Our child was the only one out of the 3 students at the stop at that time. The bus driver waited the extra minutes to see if the other students would show up in the pouring rain. I'm unsure if this is part of the protocol, but whether or not, it really doesn't matter to me. What does matter to me that he waited a few minutes while still being on time until he was sure that the 2 other students were in fact going to school, which they were. And I would like to say, as a parent, I thought that was a wonderful thing to do. I appreciate the fact that he knew he was earlier than required time and the kids weren't there yet, so he waited. While the busyness of life, he could have chosen to say, I'm not waiting, and yet he did. It's people like him that deserve to be praised and acknowledged for a job well done. And let it be known how grateful I am to know that our child at the Poland and Bernard Street bus stop has a highly considerate bus driver, and we all appreciate all that he does on a daily basis. Signed, Nicole and Dominic Sarti, S-A-R-T-I. And I would like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Sarti for sending such a positive email. And Mr. Dickton had told me today that the driver that did that was a gentleman by the name of Dave Shovelin. So big thank you to Mr. Shovelin. Thank you, Mr. Camus.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tosh. And kudos to that bus driver. We don't have any citizens.
Mr. Camus, I have a question that was mailed to me from a Sawyersville resident
Yes, Ms.
regarding the buses. They were curious to know why the Wyoming Valley West school buses purchased their gas at Rich's service station when he is the most expensive full service station in the valley. Both Heffron's in Luzerne County or Luzerne and 44 are 15 cents cheaper per gallon, and both are full serve. That's his question he's proposing.
Mr. Dickton, could you please help Mrs. Casada answer this resident?
I'm gonna get some of this incorrect without having it in front of me. But when the school buses purchase gas, there's more that goes into it than what you see as the purchase price. So we have to contract with specific petroleum companies. It can't just be any gas station, any place. And then we have accounts set up where the companies purchase that gas through. It's not as simple as, you know, they're just picking the most expensive gas. That's not true at all. So there's Heffron's, I don't believe is one. Newell's in Dallas is a station, and the one on the corner of, what is that, Shoemaker in the back road in Swarsville?
That's Rich's.
Right,
Yes.
Rich's. Those are the two approved places for the bus companies.
Okay.
I can get you more information and you can share that with the resident, but it isn't because it's more expensive or they're choosing and picking which ones they want to go to. They only have certain ones they can go
Okay.
to, Rich's.
Would
being
you
one of
mind
them.
emailing me that so I can
Not at all.
forward it back to that Sawyersville resident?
Yes, I will give you all that. You can
Okay.
share that.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Dickton.
Thank you, Mr. Dickton. Mrs. Casada, do you have anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
All right, moving on to committees. Mr. Keating, do you have anything this evening you'd like to share?
Just two things. Beginning next week, I'm going to start meeting with Mr. Kachurak and Mr. Tosh concerning the 2024-2025 budget. Mr. Tosh also communicated with me that he has some ideas concerning personnel for the coming school year. And I'd like to just sit down again with him and the business manager and hear his thoughts and get Rob's input on that and report back to the board.
Perfect. Perfect. Anything else, Mr. Keating?
Not at this time.
Thank you so much. Mr. McGinley, do you have anything this evening?
No, nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McGinley. Mr. Hardwick, do you have anything?
No, I'll do well to hold till our meeting next week.
Okay. We'll go to Safety Committee. Mr. Dickton, one of our board members has a question for you. Can you please come up to the podium? It was brought up about the cameras. One of you gentlemen want to take that?
Okay. The cameras on the bus was brought up maybe 2 months ago. So a little follow-up on that. Any information that you can give us?
Yes, so currently, as you're all aware, we have contracted with a van company. And in that contract, we had included specific language to have cameras on those vans. Currently, the bus contract doesn't expire until, I believe, 25-26 school year. At that time, we can then add that language to require bus contractors to include cameras on their buses. Right now, it's voluntary for those 2 contractors to add cameras. One contractor who has about 13 routes, I think currently has 6 of those routes covered with cameras. The other contractor does not have any cameras on their buses. We looked at pricing. I think I sent the board a rough estimate of what it would cost if we had done something similar with the bus companies to offer them to pay for the difference of the cameras minus the installation and what that would cost us as a district. Again, we couldn't force them to do it, but we can offer them that same deal that we have in the van contract currently. But I would have to talk to the solicitor and see if we can open up that contract or however you want to handle that. But that's currently where we're at right now. So with the bus contractors, the two companies that we currently deal with, it's voluntary to add cameras to their buses.
No, there was a discussion of splitting the cost.
Correct. Well, in the van contract, we split the cost with the contractor for just the camera price. So if the camera costs $1,000, the contractor pays 500, we pay 500. And then they take care of the installation. We could do something similar when we open up the new bus contract. In the meantime, if the board wants me to move forward, I can offer that same deal to the current bus contractors. But again, their contract doesn't expire for another 2 years.
I believe, speaking to Mr. Hogan, he would put him on his bus and split it. I think it's something worth pursuing. I'm in favor of it. I'd like to see us
I think-
discuss it more.
Mark, and if there's an interest in pursuing this, then I think, Anthony, you need to provide Mr. Kuchurak with what the district's cost would be if there's a proposal to split half of the cost, because that should become part of the budgeting process.
Absolutely. I can have that for you first thing in the morning. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Dickon, so could you please start moving forward, make sure get everything to the solicitor and Mr. Kuchurak, and we're good to go. And then
Absolutely.
we can look at this again for next Wednesday.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Dickon, very much. So I'm moving on. So there was a building and grounds meeting on March 27th, held at district offices, so everybody knows. In presence was Mr. Kubuski, Mr. Hardwick, myself, Mr. Tosh, and Mr. Kucharik. We went over the RFPs. The RFPs closed. We went through a bunch of these RFPs. Long story short, we got basically 4 decent companies that we narrowed it down to out of the 7. It's something that we wanted to look at. Out of the 4 companies, there was a little divide amongst the committee. SiteLog was picked by 2 of the two of the committee members, and the other one went to A&E Group. And that's where we're at. I just want to remind everybody that we have till August 31st to get our cafeteria done, so time is of the essence. We need to pick an engineer and get moving here. Plus the other projects that we have. Does anybody have any commentary on this and where they would like to see this go?
So we've used SiteLog previously. They've done a good job, in my opinion. They know our buildings. I don't think that I've heard any complaints about them. I kind of like using SiteLog, in my opinion.
Okay. So, I mean, Mr. Wilson, that's basically where I'm at this moment. I think they're doing a pretty good job for us. I think they have a bigger handle on school districts, and I think they have a good footprint. They have more employees, and they have like a broader scope of work that they can provide to the district.
They have a lot of resources from what I could see that we can take advantage of. They're writing grants for us, so.
That's how I feel as well, Mr. Wilson. Anybody else have any kind of commentary or anything they'd like to ask or add? Or
How long have we been actually using SiteLog? How many years?
I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't really.
How many years have we used SiteLog? How far back do we go with them?
Probably 2.
How many years have we used A&E?
No, can't.
I can't answer that.
More than 2.
But I want to say, if I had to guess, longer than 12.
So in my opinion, I think they probably know our buildings a little bit better. I do see SiteLog newly getting familiar with our buildings, but I just, looking at the overall cost, I just see A&E being the one I would pick. I don't know if the whole board has seen all the proposal, but that's just where I'm at with it.
I mean, looking over some of the rates, I know there's a lot of different rates for a lot of different things, so it's really hard to nail down the full price, correct?
It is.
Okay, there's not like a huge gap between the fees.
No.
And Site Logic has, you know, I think they've done this well so far. That's my opinion.
At the end of the day, it's professional service and it's what the board feels most comfortable with, who brings the most, amount of comprehensive services and benefits to the board for what the needs of the district at this point. So
I'm wondering, since this needs to move along sooner than later because of the timeframes, does it make any sense to ask to treat this almost like asking each of these four, give us a proposal to do the work? Like they would do the design and engineering and oversee a construction site, or the contractor? Just so I'm clear on what the role is.
So let's say let's just use our cafeteria project, and Bill, please, I want to make sure I'm answering your question very clearly. Let's just say A&E we chose A&E, and A&E wanted to, we need our cafeteria done. A&E would come in, they take commentary from the board, they get what the board's idea is, they go down, they draw it, measure it, quantify it, put a scope of work together, draw it up, put a set of bid specs together. They'd put it out for public bid. Contractors would come back, they'd bid. Typically what happens is engineers put a cost not to exceed a certain percentage amount. 4 to 10%. That's what you see. So whatever that is, that's how they'd get paid. So
Okay.
if the bid's 100,000, they might say, well, I only want 4%. You don't know. It's a negotiable item.
So I'm drawing out of that I guess because it's professional services, we maybe haven't in the past said, okay, here was the top 3 companies in this. Here's the project, come back to us and tell us what you can do and what the price is to do a project. Not just, a year or 2 years worth of services, but a specific project. It can't be handled that way.
It can be, it just gets a little bit cumbersome, but it could be handled any way this board deems that it wants it handled.
Okay.
The board has the driver's seat. But I just want to remind everybody, in the past, we got some remarks on our audit from the Auditor General. We never really price checked anybody or put anything out for bids, and that was whole part of this process and why this was done. And I think they all came back very great, in my opinion, and it makes me feel good as a board member.
I totally agree that the activities of getting them to submit their proposals certainly should make all the board feel better about who we deal with and the pricing issues, as well as, yeah, we had a little bit of ground to make up, according to the Auditor General, on things that perhaps weren't done the best way in the past. So I think we're righting that ship. I'm trying to understand how exactly is best for us to go from here, but to this point, and hats off to you, Rick, for having us get these proposals from these guys. At least we know what everybody's bringing to the table on paper.
Okay. So Myra, I have a question. If you could help us on your side of things. As Mr. Keating clearly stated, this is a professional service. This is the right of this board. Okay.
We didn't
Currently,
even have to do our piece for it for that reason, but we wanted to, in
Transparency.
light of the audit, remain transparent, right?
So site log is on record with us. How does that work? Because then we technically have A&E. Or do we just have Mr. Tosh pick up the phone and say, could you come help us design this project? Or how does it, where do we go from here?
Answer. But
I think I am, but I need to hear it from him, I think. Just pick up the phone and call whoever we want.
as long as the board has no problem with authorizing Dave to get moving with this, I don't see the problem with it now that we're talking about this. I mean, when the board engaged SiteLog to do a comprehensive analysis of all of the buildings, grounds, and facilities, I think this is a due diligence process here to get pricing, but what's the overall cost benefit analysis to the school district to move around from, you know, professional to professional? Is there that much advantage to moving right now from SiteLog that's in here to another provider?
Mr. Keating, I don't see.
Neither do I. I'm just throwing that out for conversation purposes.
So
I mean, they're all clearly, they're all highly qualified. The pricing is tight. It's not
Right.
apples and bananas here.
So
Are you happy with what you're getting right now,
yes,
or are you not? You want to, you know, by the time, you know, you go through this process here, is it worth it in the long run? I mean, they're the questions that need to be answered.
well, okay. Thank you very much for helping me with that. Because I had to hear it out loud, I guess.
I would like to expand one point, and one of the reasons I think they're all likely very good firms that could do the work and do it well. We narrowed it down based on who we've worked with, as well as pricing comparisons. What made me favor toward SiteLog is, I've said it before, the value added. There's designing, there's overseeing the work, but then there's also where they've been reaching out, helping us with looking for grant opportunities, helping assist in applying for grants. The site assessment they did, you know, that's a pretty big commitment on their part. So that's why I was leaning toward SiteLog and having them do the work on top of, they're pretty much in every one of our buildings right now.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody?
Was this open talk?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, no, this is about
Okay.
about the RFP.
sorry.
That's right. All right,
Mr.
perfect.
Hart, what other buildings is SiteLog in? We said during just about what other,
Well, they've been through every building.
right, what other projects are they working on currently in other buildings? They're here in Third Ave, is that correct? Did you join the other ones?
I believe they're involved down at, yeah, Third Ave here,
Dana.
Dana. Those are the three that I'm aware of, but, and it's not that, again, I think all of the companies were probably, they are all competent and good. Pricing came down. I just looked at it at a value added.
I see their value, but we keep saying price check. And that's what part of this was a price check. And if we look at price check, there is a difference.
Okay.
That's where I'm standing with that. It's just, if we're looking at numbers, I think A&E has it. It's,
All right. Is there any other notable objections to having retaining SiteLog to be our engineering firm?
We'll handle that next week, though.
Yeah.
We'll have to place it on
Yep.
the agenda.
Mr. Tosh, that'll go on the agenda for next week then.
Yep.
Very good. Moving on. Also in that meeting, on March 27th, Buildings and Ground Committee, we started taking a look at our overall operations of, you know, superintendent down through the business office, down through the buildings and grounds, down through maintenance, utility, custodial, and cleaning. We put together a brief recommendation to create an umbrella position in Act 93. So it would be a director of operations sort of position or a school facilities manager. Everybody should have that job description in front of them. Does anybody object putting this onto the agenda for next week? With some minor tweaks?
I don't mind putting it on, but I would like to see the finished version before we went forward. I'm sure something can be derived between now and next week.
Okay,
Agreed. I think it should be, what we want before
absolutely. Absolutely.
we go forward.
So Tosh, it sounds like you have some good direction from the board that you, Mr. Kachar, Meyer, Ray, you can get that working on that, please.
Rick, if I may, I'm gonna piggyback along.
Please.
As we discussed a little bit, so in lieu of our current circumstance within buildings and grounds and the activities that are going on in multi-million-dollar segments, I think we need to see what we could do to find either an individual or a group who can come in and in the short term, help oversee the projects that are in place as a double check or a check and balance that invoices we're receiving should be paid, and we're knowing that materials have arrived, they are on site, and particular items like that. Even if when the buildings and grounds director comes back, I'm sure there's catch up. Short term, I think there's a need, and I'd like to see if there's any way we could fill that. Again, short term.
Sure, we could absolutely reach out to some consulting firms and see what we can come up with. If we can entertain that for next week as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Hardwick?
I know the STEM lab was brought up. I didn't know if there was anything further regarding STEM lab.
Mrs. Carey will be with 3 or 4 of the teachers from the high school doing a presentation next Wednesday at the board meeting.
So in trying to get myself caught up a little bit, have we set, do we need any type of engineering work or any items as such for that project?
We're gonna sit down this week and we're gonna discuss that, and I'll have the information to you at the next board meeting.
Okay, no, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hardwick. Moving on, general recommended action items number 1 through 38. Are there any questions on any of those?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I think this is a typo, and I'm sorry to bring it up now. But on number 1, it says May 7th, 2024.
Oh, yeah.
So that, have it corrected for next time we meet.
What's he saying?
Oh, advertise, yeah. That's to advertise, Mr. McGinley, if you look
It
at that.
says received and opened at the district office on Tuesday, May 7th.
It's supposed to be opened. Like, that's the date they're gonna receive them by and open them on that date.
Yeah.
So it's the date to be opened. Is May 7th.
I thought we were going to do that next week. Okay. That's fine. I'm not going to do it next week. It's fine.
And Mr. McGinley, thank you very much. That's a lot,
Okay.
but thank you.
The interscholastic sports supplies, what all does that entail? Is that like, is that every sport? Like, are we talking like? Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, I should, yeah.
What is that like? What does that include? Just everything we purchase for sports use, or? Okay. We just use one company for every sport, what we purchase.
I'd have to check.
I think there's multiple. Okay. I got you.
Mr. Wilson, do you have anything else?
No, 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 thank you.
Mr. Tosh, you could follow up with him on that question, please. Next. Staff recommended action items 1 through eight. Any questions? All right, moving on. Well, I mean, we saw the finance papers and we're getting there. We got reports now. So thank you. Go around the table. Ms. Cassatt, do you have anything this evening?
Not at this moment. Thank you, though.
Mr. Keating?
Just like to commend Rob. I mean, you were handed off quite a challenge and you're making a lot of progress in a short period of time. And look forward to working with you on the budget.
Very exciting.
There is one item that I didn't put on is the sale of the tax liens that the district has done every year. It does give us 2.2 or $2.3 million upfront. It's for all the delinquent taxes. Normally it's been done by now. So I don't know. I did have the gentleman from the municipal company to come and speak next week if the district is interested in that.
I'd like to sit and talk about that a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I think if we were, just my understanding, if we were cash strapped right now,
Yes.
we may want to look at moving forward with this. But it may not be the best thing to do now based on our finances, but I'd like to sit and talk with you in greater detail.
Okay.
I agree. Monetization is not the way to go. You lose money on monetization.
Right.
You know, if we don't need to do it, I think you definitely should look at not.
I
continuing.
think, and that's exactly right. I think when the district was strapped for cash, it's kind of whatever we could do to get money. I don't see that right now as the best interest
No, I agree with you.
of the district.
Excellent. Anything else, gentlemen? Mr. Hardwick?
I actually, it was a segue, and I guess I'll ask Mr. Kucharik. Have we come to any type of agreement on our fund balance and where that's resolving?
So the audit was finalized, March 31st, actually on Easter. I was sitting there submitting it. I did not get a copy for the board yet. However, it was 18.1 million.
Very much.
So I believe if the board wishes to have the auditors present the audit when it's available, I would think that's the direction that we would go in.
I think that's a good idea.
If you could work on that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, again, unfortunately, it went right up. The deadline was March 31st, and that's when they had emailed me saying they have to submit it to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, so I was doing it Sunday afternoon, so.
Okay.
Final thing I have, Rick, I promise. In speaking, I reached out to Kim Walk today just on the ESSERs. And I think she and I are in agreement. It might make sense because there's overlap with ESSERs and finance and buildings and grounds and stuff. It might make sense. I mean, you're almost at the point where you're full board. I don't know how it would be handled, but each is working independently, at least at committee levels. I shouldn't say in the offices, but at the committee levels. And it may make sense if these groups integrate once or twice, just to make sure the left hand and the right hand know what's going on. And I only bring this up as part of ESSERS. You know, we have deadlines and we have some commitments that we have to hold to. And I think it would be good if we were all able to kind of make sure that these things are moving forward. I can do it just from an ESSERS perspective, but you know, with the other groups, it's just an idea that may make sense.
Absolutely.
It would create a sunshine law if you had so many committee members together. So obviously that would have to be either
Yeah.
advertised or.
Yep. It's something, yeah, you have to work out.
I'll have to ask Meyer what we can talk about or can't talk about. Informational only, I guess it would be.
Right here,
Okay, but
whatever you need.
thank you. I'm good.
Mr. Wilson, do you have anything?
I would just like to say, I think Mark brought it up. But we're putting a lot of money in these buildings, and don't get me wrong, it's a necessity. We're doing what we absolutely have to do for the children that are in this school currently, but we do have to, I think, eventually look at long-term what we're gonna have to do. We have an experienced business manager now, and I think he's the right man that we could, think about the future of Wyoming Valley West and these schools and what direction we're gonna go. That's all I have to say.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, this district, to the best of my knowledge, has never really had a really long-term plan. And I think we need to start working on one as soon as possible. I mean, we got through a lot of the rocky waters between the finance department and everything else, and we're never smooth sailing, but I think we're getting to a point where we definitely have to start talking about it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to speak loud.
So, Mr. Hardwick, they were supposed to start the turf this Monday. I don't believe they did because of the week of weather. From the last I heard.
I want to go down and check out the process, how you put turf in.
Monday. They passed this week because of the weather.
Okay, good.
Anything else, Mr. Wilson?
No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Perfetto, do you have anything?
I'd just like to echo what Mr. Wilson said. I think we need to start looking at what we need to do with these buildings.
I agree. Wholeheartedly. Anything else, Mr. Perfetto?
No, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kubuski?
Yeah, just a few things. One, I want to point out that State Street had an Easter egg hunt. The weekend before, I heard it was a great success. A little shout out to our buildings and grounds. They cleaned up a lot of the area for the Easter egg hunt. With that, I also want to point out the convent. There was a citizen from Plymouth emailed us. I had the pleasure to go with Mr. Harwick. We toured the old convent. I really like the place. I can't say it doesn't need a lot of work, but it has good bones. And with that being said, again, buildings and grounds did go in, secure it. I believe the concerned citizen from Plymouth did see it, so he should be happy. I just want to give Mr. Cordes a shout out that he did 2 good jobs real quick. So, he's doing a good job of buildings and grounds.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's all.
Mr. Kubuski, to that point. Can we have our solicitors look into seeing if can we sell the property? Can we donate it? Is there rules that when we took it from the diocese, I'm assuming?
Sure, could look into it.
Make sure that there's no rules that we might be breaking if we sell it. Historic committee, historical society, I don't know where we're at with all of that property.
Yeah, Plymouth does have a historical society. I think that would be a house that needs to be preserved.
Anything else, Mr. Kubuski? You good?
Well, just that the old convent, I'd like to see it saved, and if it was to be sold, I'd like it to be first really looked into through the historical society. I really think it would be a nice. I don't agree selling anything just yet until we can look into that a little bit further.
Yep.
We've sold quite a bit of properties that it seems are gotten rid of a lot of property in this district. And now going forward, we're looking at our buildings. So I don't think we should be selling anything yet. We should be really looking at what we have.
Right.
That one might be something that we might be interested in at some point.
All right.
Make a beautiful office for the superintendent. There's fireplaces and everything in there.
Right at the edge of the district.
It's like a Holiday Inn.
Mr. McGinley, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
I just would like to say, we passed a lot of the policy part the last couple meetings. And I thank everyone for doing that so we can move along. But in addition, once we pass it as a board, Ms. Bullock does an awful lot of work back and forth with PSBA and working on whether it's liability or mandate and all those things. I'd like to thank her for her work. There's an awful lot of work that goes into that we don't see directly as a board member. So I'd like to thank her.
Here, here.
I agree. She works very hard for this district and this board.
I agree.
Anything else, Mr. McGinley?
No, thank you.
Mr. Tosh, would you have anything you'd like?
Just stealing a little thunder because Mr. DeBaskis is in here. Just two quick updates. As I said, the weather prohibited the AstroTurf from being started down at the Spartan Stadium. That'll start Monday. And once we get a little bit clearer weather here, the dugouts for the girls softball will be underway.
3 weeks completed and we're gonna hand it over to the girls.
Yep.
What I understand.
Yep.
Mr. Kuchar, do you have anything you'd like to add this evening to the?
I have nothing else at this time.
Perfect. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion.
Second.
Second.